So students are getting all this tutoring, but are the results resulting? So this is what I wanted to address in this particular episode of Real Reading Talk. So there was an article done in Education Week. You can find it on edweek.org. And the title of the article is Why Hasn't Tutoring Been More Effective? And so this article was done November 18th. That's when it was published of this year. And the article wanted to address how a lot of schools across this nation were implementing these different tutoring programs post pandemic, because as we know, that was a big issue for our children, was the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic. So our kids were not in the schools because obviously, we had to adhere to the social distancing. And so things are shut down. So kids had to learn online. And so there was a lot of, uproar about kids aren't really learning online. They need to be in the classrooms and all of those sorts of things. The aspect of the tutoring programs and the funding that a lot of, districts would get when it came to these reading intervention, the funding for the tutoring, because our kids had this literacy loss and all of those types of things, right? And so what this article was addressing is that it was a study actually that was done by these researchers at Stanford University's Scale Initiative. Now, they examined these math and reading tutoring programs during the 2023-2024 school year. And they were looking at it in a lot of urban slash Black school districts, right? And what they came to find is that there were not a lot of gains as it pertained to the reading and the math for those particular children, all right? And so one of the things that they found is that when you have all of this funding going towards these tutoring programs, so now you have all of these different at scale tutors, tutoring programs on a big scale. However, they talked about how the student to tutoring ratio, it was not matched. Meaning what? You still didn't have a lot of tutors, but you had a whole bunch of students who needed that tutoring help. So maybe you might have one tutor trying to help, I'm just throwing a random number out there, maybe 10 or 15 students, okay? And just for the record, I am a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor. And so when I saw this article, I was like intrigued. I said, let me see what they're talking about. And pretty much a lot of the different things that I talk about as a tutor who understands that one-on-one tutoring session is extremely crucial. I do not believe that it's effective when you are trying to help, even if you're helping, like you have some people, they're like, okay, 1 to 4, that's doable. But even with that, you still have to understand that, okay, so are all 4 of those children, are they on the same reading level? Okay. Meaning that, okay, you can effectively help all 4 of them. But if you have 1 or 2 in that group who are extremely severely struggling and in need high levels of intervention, high levels, high dosage tutoring, where they're getting 2 to 3 times a week, 50 sessions, 50 minutes per session, where it's like consistently, are they going to be able to get that? A lot of times in those large scale tutoring initiatives, they're not. And so that's one of the things they talked about. So again, I already talked about that in terms of the student tutoring ratio. Also, they mentioned about the students not getting the sessions that are tailored to their needs specifically. So say if you have a child who is diagnosed with dyslexia, that child needs a particular type of intervention. They definitely need it consistently, and they need it multiple times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. And if you have, again, you got these tutoring whatever, they maybe hire some type of tutoring companies or whatever, they have at these districts, and they're getting all this funding to give to these folks. But are you really able to tailor to those particular children's needs? Are you really, really able to make sure that that child is going to get all of those tutoring sessions that they need every single week so that you can actually see some gains? And that's what they were talking about. No, you're not. And so that makes sense in terms of why you wouldn't see the gains that we need to see. Another aspect, it talked about students need to make sure that they have enough time with the tutors to make progress, right? So just like, again, like I said, if that child, they need a particular amount of intervention, that means that they need to have, number one, they need to be consistently coming to the sessions. And number two, if you already started with a particular tutor and you've developed that relationship, that rapport with that student, and that student will develop that relationship with you, you need to consistently be with that same tutor. But if you are at some type of tutoring program and they have this big program where maybe you'll get this one tutor, maybe a couple of sessions, but then you wind up having to get another tutor because they're working for, again, this big, tutoring company or whatever the case, that child is going to lose out. And in fact, again, you got to account for it. Now that child has to warm up to a whole new tutor, their whole approach, their whole way of doing things. And as we know, relationship is key when it comes to our children's learning. If a child has a good relationship and developed a good relationship with that tutor, that's where you're going to see a lot of the gains, effectiveness of that particular tutoring initiative. If that child has to bounce around, like 1 minute they have this tutor for 1 week and then that child comes back and have another tutor, how effective is that tutoring going to be? And so that's why I was like, when I was reading the article, and I actually sent it to my fellow tutoring sisters, okay, who are in this work doing the same thing that I'm doing. Shout out to them, Miss Tia, and also Miss Monica as well. And we were having this conversation, via text, and it's like we understand what it means to be an effective tutor, and also to see the results that you need to see when it comes to that child getting that intervention, and actually we seeing some gains. All right. So what I wanted to do was, for those of you who are in that process right now, you are trying to find a tutor for your baby, and you are like, man, what do I do? You hear about these particular programs, and it's like, oh, this center and that center, and and they got the, a lot of them, they got the big funding, they may have all the equipment, they got all of this and all of that, but I don't want you to get sidetracked by all the glitz and the glam and the glitter, right? The glitter and the gold, and you're like, ooh, ooh, ooh. I want you to think about these three things that I came up with. And, there definitely could be more, but these were just three things that came to mind as it pertains to when you are looking for a great tutor. And I'm qualified to say this because, number one, I have over 18 years of tutoring experience. And even before that, just homeschooling my children as well. Also, I am an Orton Gillingham certified dyslexia tutor. So I went through a particular training that was over a year of training, where I had to learn the Orton Gillingham method, which is rooted in the science of reading, which is rooted in phonics, okay, things that I grew up on. A lot of folks in my age group, I'm 51. So a lot of us, we know already this whole thing about science of reading. We knew that because this is what we understand when it comes to trying to teach your child how to read. They have to go through the basics, which is what? Mastering the letters, the sounds of the letters, right? It's a systematic approach, okay? And so this just giving you, my background in terms of, how I do when it comes to tutoring my students, and again, empowering those parents and empowering the students as well, and understanding that this is your reading journey. I always remind my students, this is about you. It's not about your parents, it's about you. Because when you learn how to read, when you can read anything and not have to ask somebody to read it for you, now you have the power. It's okay if you have to get help with maybe a word, or maybe you didn't understand something, but now that you understand how, you know how to blend those letters together, you know how to decode, you know how to break that up, you understand how to say these particular suffixes and, and those types of things. You understand the different phonics rules, and you know that EA can make, three different sounds, right? E, A, and E. You understand those things, right? You understand the digraphs, the blends. You got that. The R control vowels. You on it. Now you got the power. Can't nothing stop you. Okay? So, what I wanted to share is, again, the three things that you should be paying attention to when you are looking for a tutor. Number one, making sure that tutor is qualified. And just like I talked about with my own qualifications, okay? That tutor being qualified, meaning what? They have a strong mastery in what it is, the subject matter that they are tutoring in. Looking at their website, looking to see, what types of testimonials that they have on there, going to look at their social media, looking to see, what is it that other parents have said about that particular tutor, because that's really where you're going to get a lot of your decision making, right? Because that's what we do when we're going shopping for things, right? And we want to make sure that something is quality. We do what? We look at the reviews. We see what other people have said. So that's a big way in finding out if somebody is qualified. Also, that they implement a plan to help that student. So just like I talked about in the article, where you have to make sure that that tutor knows that your child needs they need particular intervention in this, whatever it is that they're struggling with. So again, like for example, I have a student, she has dysgraphia. All right, so she will struggle with her writing inverting her letters, writing her letters not clearly, and all of those types of things. And her mother talked to me about that. So I said, okay. And so we implemented a plan of how we were going to help her as much as possible be able to get better with her writing. Okay. And those are the types of conversations that you want to be able to have with the tutor. It's more than just, oh, I need tutoring. You know what I'm saying? Can you help my baby? And then, oh, okay, how much is it? Okay, all right, here they come. No, that tutor who's qualified, they're going to give an assessment to that child. They're going to make sure they're going to find out on their own, because that parent may say, oh, okay, well, this is something that I noticed. But you giving them assessment, you might say, okay, I noticed this, but I also noticed that they're struggling with their digraphs. I also noticed that they don't understand vowel teams. I was showing them the vowel teams and they weren't getting those. So these are things a qualified tutor would be able to pick up on. All right. Another thing that you want to make sure that the tutoring is going to be effective is you as the parent and the caregiver, the dedication that you bring to the table. All right. So making sure that you are having your child come to the sessions like they're supposed to. Making sure that whatever assignments that tutor gives your child after the sessions, that you are making sure that they are taking care of those things. So if, again, using the vowel team example, So if the tutor says, okay, you know, we're working on AY and AI vowel teams, and we worked on this during our session. Here is a worksheet where I want them to be able to complete these particular, words that have AY and AI. I want them to say the words 3 times a day. I want them to write them 3 times a day. I want them to use these words in a sentence. You, as the parent, have to make sure that you are having them do that. Even if they have other homework, make sure that they're doing that too. Because again, me as a tutor, these are things that I'll talk to the parents. I'm like, okay, do they get homework? You know, is it a lot of homework or whatever? So I make sure that I'm giving them something where I'm not trying to overload them. I just want to reinforce what it is that we went over during our session. Because I know, as being a tutor, that what we're doing during the session, that's not the only thing that's going to help show the gains, the effectiveness of the tutoring. It's that shadow work. It's what you're doing outside of the tutoring sessions. It's that parent making sure that they are reading to that child as well. That's something I'm always telling parents. Are you making sure your child is being read to? Are you reading to them? Are they listening to read alouds? I even send them my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom. I make sure I say, okay, well, if you don't have time, then make sure that they are, listening to one of the read alouds. So these are things that I'm implementing because I know that it's more than just them coming to see me, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, they're just going to, make these reading games. Now they're going to be reading, autobiography of Malcolm X, you know what I'm saying, in 2 weeks. No, it ain't working like that. No, you're not. And especially if you have a child who's severely struggling, like I've had children in second grade and they did not know all of their letters and the sounds of their letters, and they're in second grade. No, it's gonna take some high level intervention, high dosage. It's gonna take a lot of consistency. Okay. Also, when you are dedicated, you are making sure that your child is there on time, ready to focus. Don't send them to tutoring sessions with a bag of hot Cheetos and some Arizona tea, like, whatever drink. Okay, have them be ready, be focused. And I would recommend, because I even told my parents before, I'm like, try to give them something like a healthy snack before they come. Give them a piece of fruit. Make sure that they have something that'll help them focus, so that they won't be all scatterbrained and jumping off the walls and those types of things. All right, those things are important. Okay. Also, keep the tutor informed on the progress that the child is making in school. All right, so whatever gains they're making in school, they keep the tutor informed. Also, if they aren't making any gains, if there's some things that's happening and you're noticing, say they've been good getting sections, say it's been 6 weeks, and you're not going to see, listen, you have your child go for 2 sessions, 3 sessions. If your child was on a, say, second grade reading level, they're not about to jump to no third or fourth grade reading level after 4 sessions. That's not about to happen. But you should at least see something, whether, for example, if you have a child who say they did not know all of their letters, maybe they only knew 10 of the 26 letters, but after 2 or 3 sessions, you see now they know 20 out of the 26 letters. That's considered a gain. Okay. And understand that that's how things work. You can't go into the tutoring sessions saying, well, I'm paying this money and, I should see my child, they came in here really low, and now you're expecting that tutor to come in here and they just about to perform a miracle. No. The dedication that you as the parent and the caregiver must have is understanding that things take time. Just like in our own lives, just like us as adults, we know that it's about making sure that we are doing things consistently, right? And making sure that we're showing up ready, which brings me to my last point, which you should be looking at, is the consistency. Making sure that you are being consistent, as the parent or caregiver, and making sure that that tutor is consistent. If you get you a tutor and you're like, oh man, this is sweet, and then you notice that she always got to reschedule. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to reschedule. I got to reschedule. You know, that's a red flag. They shouldn't be rescheduling. The only time they should be rescheduling, of course, just as we know, things happen, human error, whatever. But if they're like constantly having to reschedule, or they're not communicating with you, they're not showing you, you know what I'm saying, like, okay, this is what's going on, then that's a problem. And of course, you as the parent, just like you expect that tutor to show up consistently, you have to show up consistently. Because I'm telling you now, that's one of the things that I see as a tutor where children do not make the gains that we want them to make. I've experienced time and time again. I'll have that student, they're coming, it'd be like 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, cool. Next thing you know, they start to drop off. It's one thing, I get it, especially around this time of year. I know that you got, especially you have a child, they're out of school and, they're celebrating different holidays and, maybe that child was not able to come to a particular session that week because they were at family members' houses or whatever the case may be. And so okay, I get that. But even still, make sure, number one, you're communicating that. And number two, make sure you jump right back on when you say you're going to jump back on. Because that right there, those are the things where you're going to see the effectiveness of the tutoring sessions doing what they do. So I hope that, was helpful. Again, like I said, we have to do everything that we can. We can get the intervention. We can have the tutoring sessions. We can have all of these different things. However, what I try to do as a tutor, I'm about empowering the parents and the caregivers because I don't want that child, I don't want the family to depend on me. I want that child to be able to get the resources, the tools, and the families to get the resources and the tools so that that child can be able to, get that jump start from me. Okay, all right. It makes it, some kids are different. Some it may be 4 weeks, some it may be 6, some it may be a year. But if you're consistent and we're seeing some results, and then it may have taken, a little longer, but then y'all got it, then all right, you go on about your way. Fly, my little bird, fly. All right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to do. I want to help my babies fly. Okay? I don't want them to always have wing assistance. Okay? We don't want them to always have wing assistance. All right? We want them to be able to get that assistance, that wing assistance, and then next thing you know, they flying on their own. They like eagles. They like soaring. They like, holla, I can read a book on my own. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what we want. Okay? So yeah, with that being said, you already know if your child needs that pre-K through 4th grade reading tutor, or they need that reading support, check out me, Miss Sasha, abclearntutoring.com. All right. Your child will get that free reading assessment, and then we can go ahead and get started. So there you go. All right. So I thank you all again for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. My name is Miss Sasha, and with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues at the very core, the very foundation, as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in our Black communities and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. All right. Thank you all for listening. Peace. So time for some housekeeping. Again, thank you all for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. So like I mentioned before, if you're looking for that pre-K to 4th grade reading tutor, please go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. I'm also an Orton Gillingham certified dyslexia tutor. So if your child has already been diagnosed with dyslexia, I am certified to help your child. So please, again, go to abclearntutoring.com. Also, I'm the founder and executive director of ABC Read, as you see the sign on my wall. It's a nonprofit organization that I started over 10 years ago, and our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. And we do this by giving out books that are culturally relevant for the whole family, having great intergenerational reading experiences. Also, we provide healthy snacks, and we've also had a parent workshop, and we're looking to have another one. And we are into our third book club. This book club, though, that we are currently in is for our youth. They have been reading the book. Let me see, do I have it? No. JD, yes, I do. JD and the Great Barber Battle. So this is the book that they have been reading. And we are just super excited. So go to abcread.org because you help us be able to provide all of these different things that I mentioned. This helps us be able to continue to do that for our community here in Cleveland to help eradicate the high levels of illiteracy in our communities and develop a culture of literacy, all right? Also, I have Reading is Freedom. That is the merch that I had started. So I have merch that I sell. I have some shirts that I'm selling. I am a co-author, y'all. Yes, I am. This is the book, Healed, Empowered, Resilient, Her. All right. So I have co-authored this book with 9 amazing, dope sisters, y'all. Oh my goodness. Beautiful, beautiful book. And everybody has their own chapter talking about how they have overcame different adversities, had dealt with different trials and tribulations, and they still continue to keep going. This is what we have done collectively, and we came together to discuss that. And so you need your copy. This is the perfect time if you're looking for a gift to give during this time, whatever it is you celebrate. This is a book that you can get for your the ladies in your life, whether it's your daughters, your wife, or for my brothers out there, if you want to read this book for yourself too. Okay, we got some great reviews on Amazon where brothers have said they read this book and they said that they absolutely loved it. Go check us out on Amazon, okay? And then also you can send me an email as well. And I'll make sure I link that in the description, all right? Because I can actually mail copies directly to you, all right? And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom. Make sure that you leave reviews on the podcast platforms as well. And make sure that you put comments as well. And I just want to share it with you all. I've actually been reading the book, the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. That book is definitely an eye-opener. I like how she talks about just that aspect of let folks do what they gonna do, let them, all right? And then you take control of what you're going to do, what she says, the part of let me. So first, let them, all right? Let them do what they do. Stop trying to control everybody, okay? Because that's a big part of what it is that we do as humans. We want to control what somebody else do. But she says then, let me. So now control you. All right, so I like that message in the book. So that's the book I've been reading. Also, I had to bring up my dear sister. I've been going through this because I'm doing some research for something that I'll let you guys know that I'm so excited about. Someone asked me to do. And so I'm doing some research with that. So I'll share that very, very soon. So with that being said, I thank you all again for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. And please remember to keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace.